Communism failed, even though the idea was to make equality between men. Communism failed because its methodology is wrong, despite the good intention if there's any. The truth about wealth is that it can't be distributed by the government. Rather, it must circulate by interest-free fair economy. Communism is the rule of the godless, where wealth and power is actually functioning only on the interests of the few communist leaders, and they act like gods of those under their rule. If ever there should be a distribution of wealth, it should be done through the collection of fair amounts of charity from wealthy people to be directly given to the poor, and not by having it sequestered by the government. This is real equality, and that is the economic system in Islam. Capitalism, on the other hand, which is supported by democracy, also talks about equality, but in fact it's not. In capitalism, capitalists are just the same as communist leaders and make the rest of the world their slaves. Usury is the biggest evil in the capitalist society because it makes the rich richer and the poor poorer due to the limited economic opportunities, and by making people pay more than what they borrow from interests and other forms of unjust business dealings that are Islamically prohibited. Besides the usury and other unjust business practices in capitalism, another big evil is the fiat paper currency that was introduced in 1971 by the United States that has no intrinsic value and which is not backed by gold deposits. Allah said in the Quran, "O you who believe, fear Allah and give up what remains from usury from now onward if you are true believers. And if you do not do it, then take a notice of war from Allah and His Messenger. But if you repent, you shall have your capital sums. Deal not unjustly by asking more than your capital sums, and you shall not be dealt with unjustly by receiving less than your capital sums." Quran chapter 2 verse 278-279. The value of fiat money is controlled by a few people and banks in particular for its value to appreciate and depreciate in order to serve their own economic interests. This means that the value or purchasing power of our money in whatever currency, such as dollars and others, is dependent upon the decision of those few powerful people of the world. This unjust system of capitalism imposed by democracy means that the 3 richest men in the world have more wealth than 49 poorest countries. Capitalism also meant that less than 100 men have more wealth than the whole mankind. In the unjust circulation of wealth implemented by capitalism, those less than 100 men controlling more wealth than the whole mankind are like blood clots in blood vessels, which are obstructing blood circulation. This obstruction in wealth circulation will result in economic failure, much like how an obstruction of the artery could cause a heart attack. The symptoms of ailment is visible, and we can see in the whole world today, even in rich countries like Japan, USA, and Europe. But we are seeing the results of this poor wealth distribution in poor countries since the beginning, except that nobody cares for the poor except Islam and those few who want to implement Islam as their way of life and financial system. Sadly, Muslim countries today are also capitalist countries. The so-called democracy, which talks about people power, is actually functioning only on the interests of the capitalists in making gains out of their capital. Capitalism is functioning in most of the countries of the world, and the ruler of those countries are either capitalists themselves or are supported by capitalists to become rulers on hidden capitalist agendas. The Islamic financial system is based upon the desire of the Muslims to achieve mutual benefit for the parties involved in business dealings and the avoidance of any form of oppression and exploitation. The Islamic financial system ensures that wealth is distributed to those who need it, so that nobody goes hungry, homeless, or desperate. The Islamic financial system believes that a man shall not live in this world except temporarily, and material wealth should only be acquired, used, and distributed for the ultimate purpose of benefiting from it for the hereafter. Thus, charity, giving alms, being involved in just business dealings, and other virtuous actions that involved wealth are ordered upon Muslims. Islam is not only a way of worshipping Allah, it is the perfect way of life, and each facet of the Muslim's life is guided by the teachings of Islam, even his trade and business.